Hi, I'm Dean Sage.
And I'm Jack Herban.
And this is Show Me Your Deck,
a podcast where we explore the intersections of oracles and chakras,
using our original decks to create new insights. Episode 41.
41.
It's ever approaching midlife crisis. It was funny. I was talking to our friend Lisa, and she was trying to convince me that there's like 3 midlife crises. I'm like, no, there's crises. Like, you can have existential crises at any age, but there's really only one midlife crisis.
Well, I guess you don't really know until at the end what was the midway point.
Right. But I feel like I'm in the 40s, so like I feel like that's the time. Like, if you're gonna sort of have your midlife thing, that's the kind of the normal psychological time period for it to be. Some people can have a little bit later, like maybe some people have it in their 50s, but I think this is around the right time for it.
I think I had my first midlife crisis when I was about 15.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, they're not midlife; they're crises.
Well, I didn't know I was going to get to 30 at the time.
That's true. So,
it was strange days in the 90s. It was strange days.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, I've just been having a recurring, like, obsessive thought about, like, what if I could go back to this moment in not quite sixth grade. It was the weekend before sixth grade, and I was running down a hill, and I should have gone to the right, and I didn't. I went straight and ended up jumping off a 7-foot cliff and breaking my foot in 5 places. And like everything else snowballed from there, because then I was no longer active. I was, inactive for like 6 or 7 months. And then it still had to heal after that. So I basically went from being like really active and running around and playing sports to doing absolutely nothing. And then puberty sort of hit at the exact same time. And I've never not been overweight since then.
Yeah, it affected your metabolism.
Yeah, like so I'm like, if I just went back for this one key moment and didn't break my foot.
Well, that's not a midlife crisis.
So that's been my obsessive thoughts. I'm calling it my midlife crisis.
Okay. So you only got to 12th grade.
Go back in time and fix the key moment of it all.
Well, yeah, I can see how that would be a key moment, because it affects everything about the way you experience your body going forward. Well,
I just at that point, then that's like I stopped doing sports at that point. I never got back into like a healthy active style, and then my parents didn't know about healthy eating. It was like you said, it was the 90s. Like
the 90s. The 90s. Oh wait,
we had McDonald's chicken nuggets like 2 or 3 times a week, like
daily.
Yeah.
I have a friend who, I don't know how her mother wouldn't know this, even in the early 80s. I don't get it, but she was essentially suckled on Coca-Cola.
Oh my goodness.
And so from the time she was itty. And so she just never had a chance. Her metabolism was set like that from the time she was tiny. She's just never been able to lose all the weight her whole life.
I feel that.
But even in like 1980, 81, you don't know that Coca-Cola is bad for children.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really? You don't know that? I don't know.
It was a weird time. We came up in a weird time.
Well, we were feral.
Mm-hmm. You a little bit more than me, but I was pretty. Yeah, I was in charge of I was 10. I was in charge of my 5-year-old sister all summer long, because both mom and dad worked. So
we just disappear for 8, 10, 12 hours at a time on like go-karts and driving off into the woods, and we could have died in the woods, and like, okay, well,
they'd find you like a week later.
Come back in time for dinner. Like we couldn't come home until like the streetlights turned on. Like, it's time and play.
Yeah, no, riding your bike.
Oh my God, we would ride bikes. Like, it had to be miles and miles away. I'm thinking about one of the houses in North Augusta. We would walk or bike all the way up to the river, and that had to be like 5 miles. We're like 9. we didn't get in any trouble. It was fine.
Industrious.
We were very industrious.
Well, let's see if the reading is as nostalgic as we've been feeling.
What would qualify as nostalgic for the reading?
For the chakras? Well, the 6 of Cups would come up again. The six of Waves. That's about nostalgia. Any of the tens that came up would be a little bit, because they talk about generations of family, so they kind of bring up a nostalgic factor. Yeah, so there's some ways it could go nostalgic.
Well, let's see if it even happens at all. Hold on. Oh hell, deck number 1. Fuck your nostalgia. Here we go. We're gonna get the sassy deck. All right. This will be the projections of joy. Which number? 48. So this is very, very, very high up.
Very high up.
Very high up. So, oh God, I'm almost afraid to see what this is going to be. Wow, this is going to be like ether and air or something. It's going to be way high.
The connection.
What did I say? 48?
48, yep.
48. So this is, ether and air. Are these out of order? Oh, they were out of order. Okay, I see. Okay. Oh God. All right. So this is the crown chakra, purple, ether, as it is intersected with aqua, air, throat. Spread joy like it's COVID-19. Write an uplifting essay. Publish it anonymously. Share it ravenously. We've had this one before.
Yeah.
Spread joy like it's COVID-19. Write an uplifting essay. Publish it anonymously. Share it ravenously.
So, I mean, let's talk about nostalgia, right? Going back 5 years.
2020, what a great day.
2020. That was an interesting time. I remember I was apartment hunting, because where I went to gave me an introductory rate. And what they didn't say is that the introductory rate was going to be increased by 50% in the second year. So I was like, are you kidding me? For a studio, which, by the way, just fast forward, it now costs the same as what I was paying. I was paying $1,600. They wanted me to pay $2,000 for the second year. And now fast forward, it's back down to $1,600 because that's what it's worth. It's a studio. It was tiny.
Yeah.
So I'm apartment hunting, and I go to Starbucks. I'm in Starbucks, and that's when like the call goes out. Like that's when like the news went out, and they're like, "We're shutting down right now. You have to leave the cafe."
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I was out and about when it, using quotes around this hit.
I was at home, so I didn't experience being thrown out of anything. Strange time. That's February or March of 2020, right?
Yeah. March and into April.
I had just come back from my final scouting trip to Portland, Oregon.
Oh, that's right. You were trying to move at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. I was on the verge of moving to Portland, Oregon, and I went there at the worst time of year to see if I'd be able to tolerate the weather. So I was there in January. That's actually where I was when I finished writing all the haiku, not the haiku. I was finishing writing the book, something for the content for the book. I think it must have been the descriptions, because the haiku were already in place for the class. But yeah, I was looking I was looking to see if all the rain and everything from December to February would be bad for my mental health, and I liked it fine. It was fine. I was there, right after the new year, and it was gross, and I still liked it. And then Portland suffered pretty badly during 2020. It got hit pretty hard by all the unrest and everything else that came along with with COVID. I think every night for a year they had riots, starting in maybe May or June when all the race riots started across the country, and then they just never stopped. They just kept going in Portland, which is odd because it's one of the whitest cities in the whole country. But
well, both of our plans were mildly derailed.
Mildly, yeah. But I ended up staying in Charlotte. My business recovered. One of the reasons I was looking to leave was because of something I wrote that went viral that ended up getting me canceled really hard. I was looking to start over, but I stayed in Charlotte, and my business more than recovered. It thrived, oddly enough. Some of my best years were during COVID-19 in terms of my business. I met my boyfriend and almost bought a house.
Oh yeah, I remember that whole journey. But getting back to the card, I think it's interesting that I also started my deck during this time because obviously we had more time. So I started working on the deck, and it's where I got the impetus to kind of start this over, because my not then spouse, but my to-be spouse we liked tarot but couldn't get into it. Like just didn't do visual images. Like that's just not her thing. Like that's just not their thing at all. And so I was like, okay, that's not working. Let's find something that does work. And that's actually the impetus for my deck being both gender nonconforming, but also trying to come up with like like auditory written hooks for the tarot instead of the classic imagery.
Your deck also reminds me of Mark Rothko's work. So fields of gradients and colors kind of melting around and not being particularly literal, and yet still evoking emotional or psychological responses.
So yeah, there is a bit of nostalgia, but we have to kind of take this card, into the today's space a little bit. So I remember we talked a lot about the sharing aspect of it last time. I'm not really feeling too much of that this time. I'm feeling more of an internal aspect of this, like the taking the time to write, to reflect, because I think that's something that we both did during this time period. And I know the card's about sharing. I'm kind of feeling like you got to start with yourself. Like
you have to create something before you can share it.
Yeah. And you have to
incubation for you right now.
Say that again.
Incubation.
Yeah. I feel like you have to bring the good news to yourself, right? And at least for me creatively, and I think we've talked about this, but I have to like wait for the muses. Like it has to be a flow. Like our friend Lisa was telling me yesterday, well, set a timer. Like I've been doing that. I've been being creative, and I set a timer for my creativity, and I'm like, honey, that makes it worse. I'm like, if I catch the flow, I'm going for as long as I can. It's like when you catch the wave, you stay. You don't get off that wave for nothing. And I mean, she's trying to be she's very, very helpful to me. Lovely, amazing. Usually has great advice, but this time I was like, no, putting a timer on my creativity would be, but I think as I try to solve that, right, as I try to like work through that inner critic that prevents me from being creative unless I'm ecstatic, unless I'm manic or something, I think that you have to kind of bring, at least for me, like the good news to yourself. Like you have to bring the good vibes, the good waves before they can emanate outward. You have to bring it to you first. Like with this deck, like I had to bring the deck to me, and it had to be meaningful to me before I could share it with others. Even though the intention was to share it with others, I had to kind of bring that mindset and, as you've pointed out, have a very creative time. And I was able to do that, and I was able to kind of work on it iteratively, and I wasn't crazily manic. And yes, sometimes the muse did come while I was working on it. I could feel it, but it was a different kind of creativity. And that's something, I think a lot of people don't see when it comes to it. And I think this is especially true if you don't have a lot of time. Because if you don't have a lot of time, then you're sort of rushing to do little bits. Like it's not that you set a timer, but you have a timer, right? You've only got so long that you can dedicate to this. So I think there's a washing over. I might be speaking very much of myself right now, but there's like a washing over that needs to happen, that you need to kind of cleanse and balance and align, and then you will resonate. It's like a tuning fork that's like, corroded and has other things on it, and it's lost its resonance. And then you clean it, and now it resonates again. And that's I think the reverberation sending outward, because that resonance will have resonance in others even if they have no idea that you're there, right? Like there's just the fact that your sound is in the air causes other resonances to occur.
So in terms of a context, it sounds like the way you're feeling the card is that before you can share something that's good, you have to have it in yourself, and you have to have enough of it to not be depleted once you begin sharing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely the depleted part would be important. You can't just give of yourself.
Right. Otherwise, you're an angel with, no feathers on their wings. So going forward, we can think that the underlying reminder is that before you can do any of this other good that's going to be mentioned in the reading, you have to first make sure that it's coming out of you from a place of abundance.
Mm-hmm. And that you're doing something like with the tuning fork, like you're doing something natural.
Mm-hmm.
Like you naturally resonate at this frequency. You naturally resonate with this material. It's emanating from the core of who you are, and you're not trying to force it.
Yeah, you can't emanate joy if you don't have joy.
Mm-hmm.
You can perform joy, but that's not emanating it.
No, and performative joy is exhausting.
Yeah, it is.
You're draining yourself to do it. And I think we talked about it before, the performative-ness of social media. I was watching I don't know, somehow gem influencers have gotten on my feed. I don't seek that out. Like it's not something that I seek out. I'm not really interested in it because I have an expert in you. That if I have a question, I just go to you and ask the question. Like I don't, and they're it's obvious that they have spent hours and hours sculpting this look. And from working with you, I understand that they're, cutting and they're, steroids and they're,
well, and there's also lighting.
Lighting. They're dehydrating, like to get the look is this effervescent, ephemerate moment, that only exists in that one instance. And then,
you don't know the degree to which they're using lighting or the degree to which they've used filters or other special effects. You don't know how many times they did the take. Mm-hmm. What you're seeing might be the 416th attempt.
But then they're like, oh, you can look like me. And here's this like 3 exercises that you could do. And I'm like,
yeah.
So first,
just these 3 exercises.
First of all, like what you're performing is like extra advanced. They're like hanging and moving their legs, so they're like activating every muscle in their body. And they're like, this is how I got my abs. And I'm just like,
that's how you got your abs.
But it's performative, like good for them for trying to do something if they're in the right intention, right? Like if they're trying to help. But I think it's real resonance, like the real resonance of joy, like the real resonance of health is like, hey, let's take you where you are. Like, let's take the world where it is. And let's talk about the things that matter. And let's not create performative moments that people will strive for but never attain.
Well, and frankly, and maybe this is just me being in my upper 40s, I don't want to know how somebody 22 got their muscles. I want to know how somebody 52 kept them.
Yes. Yeah, because that's the other thing.
22 with some patience and some steroids can get whatever look they want.
It does, and it's time. It's so much time. It's so much time. There's
and actually, young man, 22, 23 years old, you haven't been working out long enough to look this way, so I know you're on steroids. I don't care what you say. I don't care how natural you are. It is not possible. It's not.
So my point for all this is not to bag on gym influencers, but it's to say
they need some bagging. But okay, continue.
it's to say that we need to be careful when we're creating our emanations that we're not trying to create performative emanations. Like we're not trying to do something that we think like they do that because that's the way they think other people want them to look. And it's fun. They've done studies on heterosexuals, and the kinds of things that men think that women want are only things that other men want in men.
Yep, exactly.
It's not what a woman's looking for.
No, they don't want anywhere near as much muscle usually.
And so
they see it as vanity. They see it as wasted time. They see it as potential danger.
It all sort of eats itself. It's like a snake eating its own tail. You know, it's this circular logic. And again, like I was saying, like if you have the time and you want to create that body, that's fine. Recognize that's where you are and emanate out health and healthy ideas. And I will say there are some influencers that come across that are doing that. And it's a stark difference because it's not like, here's what you do to look like me. It's like, hey, let me share some healthy tips with you. You know, and they're honest about, you know, their time and their gym schedule and things like that, because it's hours.
So then the reminder isn't only that you're putting out something beneficial to the world from a place of having abundance. It's also making sure that what you're emanating is even real.
Well, you talked about the shared anonymously, like. That's the other thing, like that I think, you know, the reason I keep coming back to the influencers is like, they're like, look like me, I'm pretty, right? Like they're looking for that kind of.
And here are my 6 channels.
Yeah.
So to do what you're doing from a position of real generosity implies that you don't mind if you do or don't get credit for whatever it is you're doing.
Just spreading good information, good news.
Yeah. Yeah. Being helpful just for the sake of being helpful.
Which, of course, all influencers are, you know, trying to make a living, and I appreciate that. And again, I'm not trying to turn a bag on them, but it's a good reference point to think about this kind of thing. To think about how you are influencing, and are you looking for that return? Right? Is it performative, and you're looking for acknowledgement and satisfaction and attention, or is it emanations that really you can't even control? You just emanate it, right? You just emanate healthy living, or you emanate spiritual settling and spiritual wholeness. Like what do you emanate?
Okay, so let's get one of your cards.
Yes, I've just picked up the deck. Okay, we got one here. Not a lot of buzzy, but
they're not reverberating. They're not feeling authentic today.
They're not. Well, they're not as excited as they can be. Oh, this is great. Source of Flames. This is the Source of Flames. So this would be the Queen of Wands in the tarot. You are the ever burning flame.
Okay, and that's interesting because being the ever-burning flame means that you are constantly projecting yourself out into the world. So whatever you're projecting should come from a place of ease, right? We were just talking about performativity. If you are the source of this flame, if you are the source of your own light, then let that light be whatever color it already is.
So I have, it is very easy to think of things as happening to us, that we are passengers along the journey and the events we experience are from without, happening to us and not with us. But we are intentional creatures who imbibe the intention of others without thinking. How do you know when someone is sad or when they are hiding something? How often was your gut reaction correct? Not everything can be gained with a glance, but there is so much to be said about the power of our gut, our core. Everything we think becomes action in some way, most of which we can't control, and most of which others see all too clearly. So what is it that you burn within? Is it power or is it shame? Does your furnace feel your actions, or do you let the heat slip out into the world thinking others are taking it from you? We are intention. We are at our core energy and action. No matter the dire nature of the circumstances, we control where our power goes and to whom we give it.
Well, that fits perfectly within the context of the first card.
Yeah. And the source for me, like the queen in the tarot and the source, so the reason I called it the source is that the journey of the chakra is learning to balance the chakra, learning to come between excess and famine and overactivity and underactivity. And in this case, it's about generativity and creativity and power versus the quelling of shame. So can you overcome shame to be who you are, like authentically and with power and with purpose? And so that's where the source comes in. And then the ever burning flame, like it doesn't run out. It's like a nuclear reaction, right? It's like a star. You are constantly burning and filled with fuel it does not extinguish, and you don't have to chase it, right? You don't have to find the flames within the world. Like it's within you now.
Mm-hmm. And if you are a star, then you do have excess heat and light and energy to share because it's coming from this deep core of activity. So you don't need to perform anything other than who you are.
Mm-hmm. The star burns because it burns, and it happens to give life, but it's not necessarily intentional in the star. The star is just doing what it does naturally.
It's strange that all those different specks of stardust come together and have conversations about stars and stardust.
And then even like obviously ever burning flame, we do burn out, right? You know, we don't last forever, and neither do stars.
I'm burning out right now.
But then the dust of stars is the building blocks of life, right? Like stars had to have lived and died before us in order for us to be here.
Yep, that's what I meant by specks of stars having conversations about stars. So I'm kind of eager to jump into the next card. I know we usually spend more time with each card, but we spend so much time on the first one, then the second one fits right into it that I kind of just want to go.
Yeah, no, it was just builded right up to the fact that we are the source of the power for these emanations. It just reinforced that. So yeah, let's take another look at yours.
Okay, deck number 2, that's the professions. Very literal. Number 12. Heading back down into the lower chakras.
This will be your fire, I think. Well, your molten metal.
My metal. So this is Svadhisthana. This is the viscera, orange metal, and how it intersects with water, third eye, blue. We've had this intersection before. I profess that I feel no obligation to drink the poisonous thoughts of others. I profess that I feel no obligation to drink the poisonous thoughts of others.
So we are emanating, others are emanating, but what we resonate with is important and dangerous and powerful. And it's easy. It's so easy to let other things resonate within you because we have not just one tuning fork, we have hundreds of them. And some of them were given to us as children, and they are not helpful. They are itches that don't need to be scratched, that take us in the wrong direction. But it's very easy to see something on a social post or to listen to the news and hear a slant and to get propaganda and have that little resonance go off in your head, right? That little vibration. You're like, ooh, I feel that.
Well, they call it a dog whistle for a reason.
So it's very clear in this that we're thinking about how we're resonating, but we also need to think about how we're resonating, right? How it's interacting with us too.
And to be mindful that as we are paying attention to what we're putting out, we have to be aware of what other people are putting out. And especially if we think that it's performative, because if it is performative on their part, then it implies that it might include some kind of an agenda. And we need to be aware of what that means and whether or not we're actually harmonizing with that.
It's very easy to chase what you desire without questioning why and how and should. It's very easy to get resonance off of a perfect body image. I have a great example. It's funny.
Okay.
It's funny. I was in my 20s and I started having a receding hairline almost like, I won't say 18, maybe like 20, 21. It started to go. And I think I want to say 27 at this point. And I was convinced that I could have fluffy hair because that was kind of the trend at that time, was some fluffy hair. So I started growing my hair out. Now my hair grows profusely on the sides of my head.
Oh, okay.
It does not grow profusely on the top of my head. So I have a picture of me with like these shaggy side walls and this sorry looking top mop. And yeah, it was at this time that I accepted that I was going bald and I was never going to have a cool haircut. And it was sad because in my childhood, I was so anxious that I never got a cool haircut because I was so afraid of what people would say and judgments and this and that. Another reason why I've been thinking about like going back in time, because I'm like, if I could just know what I knew now, then like I wouldn't have cared. I would have just lived. But anyway, so yeah, that's a perfect example. I was resonating with this idea of having this cool hair, and I was sort of just, coming out, and engaging with the gay community. And so I was like, I'm going to get cool hair. And no, I cannot have cool hair, and that's okay. But it's, it was one of those things where it's like, I was resonating with something and I was desiring it so hard, but it wasn't going to fit me. It wasn't going to be something that I could achieve.
When this came up in the past, this is the one that, this was the factory dumping waste into the river. Mm-hmm. It's interesting that it would come up here since we're talking about being aware of what we're putting out into the world. So I profess I feel no obligation to drink the poisonous thoughts of others. Okay. Within this reading, what if you take a break from drinking your own poisonous thoughts?
Oh, I like that, because we started with giving yourself the good news.
Yeah.
So, the internal resonances that are going off in your own head, the bad tuning forks that are,
Or, to your point, being given tuning forks from childhood that aren't helpful. If these poisonous thoughts, maybe they're not even yours. You're repeating them because they're familiar, because you heard them from other people. Mm-hmm. And now you think they're your thoughts, but are they? I mean, just take some time to re-examine that. Are these my thoughts?
Or are they just things that you were told so often that they became
normal
and vibed in you? Root metaphors, I'm going to bring those up here because those are deep tuning forks. Those are the kind of resonances that shake you to your core. Mm-hmm. The moments, like for mine, we have the third chakra, the moments of being bent over in shame, like completely bodily affected by a shameful moment, by a shameful resonance. Yeah, that's deep stuff.
It's so interesting because I was just editing the novel, and the last paragraph I was reading before I came in here to be with you was about being folded forward in shame.
They're powerful, and they usually bring up guilt and shame, powerlessness, right? A sense of fear and lack of security. They bring up the lower chakras.
It's interesting because, the entire context here is about being aware of what you're putting out into the world. And then your card was talking about how you are the eternal source of your own radiance. And now we're talking about, well, what are you radiating? Where did it come from? Is it even yours? It's so far, the first three cards are giving me the sense that the reminder here is to reconsider what it is you think you know about not just yourself, but the way in which you share yourself with other people. If that is, and this is a reminder, and if you find that what you've been doing is good, then okay, check in, check off, it's good, keep going. But it's just an invitation to double check and do some spot proofing, as it were, in your own internal novel. Because what you really don't want is to be sending out something that you're not even aware of.
That's the danger, because once you start resonating with the thing, it affects other things. It affects your thinking, because a lot of these resonances are happening I don't want to say intellectually. Sub ego would be the Freudian way of saying it.
Is that the id? What is that?
Yeah, the id. Sub thought, sub rational, logical thought. These are emotions. These are things that are coming to you and turning you and facing you in different directions instinctively. It's not something that you're rationally thinking about. It's that, that soundbite had this thing, and it resonated because I have this belief, and you're down a path of like, well, this is the right thing to do, and you're not really analyzing it. It's like they do it all the time. Some study says blah blah blah, and you agree with it. So you don't investigate it. You're just like, oh, there we go, I'm proven right, and you kind of move on, and now you've got that little resonance in your head of, I'm right. My beliefs are correct.
So then, how do we know whether or not we're being authentic and that we're actually emanating that which we intend? Because you will see people, on whatever side of whatever issue, be very, very convinced of what they're saying, and then yet not particularly, articulate about why they justify what they feel.
Because they're vibrations, they're not rational.
Well, but that's my whole point. What is a way that you can spot check yourself? So, okay, here I am. I have this position. I have this opinion. I'm doing this stuff. I'm doing this thing. And people are upset. Now, are they being upset because they're wrong, or are they being upset because I've done something that I need to be aware of? What is the process for understanding whether or not you are actually correct?
So I think it's the examined versus the unexamined life. I think a lot of times when you're just going with your vibes, right? You're just going with your resonances. It's an unexamined position. So you don't take the time to pause and reflect and check where is this resonance coming from? Where are these vibrations coming from? And you have to open up the cabinet of your mind and go in there. And this is where things like meditation, like Buddhists obviously have a lot to say on this. So, I turn to them a little bit in this instance of that. If you calm your mind, and if you work on aligning your chakras, especially your lower chakras in this case, you're going to find which ones are sort of hyperactive, which ones are underactive, and you'll start to see and understand, and things will click. And this happens to me. Like, I'll do something. I think I talked last week. I snapped at my spouse and got very, pejorative and demonstrative because I thought the situation called for it. And then I realized, oh no, that's my mother. Like, that's classic my mother. That was a learned behavior from 43 years, of being with her. So, but I didn't, like, I had to stop and examine it, right? I had to stop and look for, like, where did that come from? Why was I vibrating like that?
Yeah, but that's exactly my point. What is the red flag that we can remember or recognize when we're in a moment where we're not being reasonable? How do we remember to be more thoughtful?
I think if it feels too easy, that's just for me. If it feels too easy, if it feels like it's slipping on like a very comfortable glove, I tend to question it, because that's very deep, very core stuff where it's like, oh, that feels very good and easy. And I have to I think at those moments I have to pause and say, okay, that's interesting. Also, be confronted with opposite thought and try to deal with it. So, you have the example of people being angry. Okay, let's understand why they're angry, right? Let's do empathy. Let's place ourselves into their position. Let's understand their anger. okay, it's actually really bad and coming from a bad place, and it's inauthentic, or whatever's going on. All right, okay, so I'm probably doing the right thing. But I think this is, again, where you have to go to the Buddhist. Like, there's this very Zen thing that you have to approach. It's like a limit in calculus, which I'm studying. I got myself a book. I'm very excited. I skipped calculus in high school because I was so done with math, because the math teachers were horrible. So I tested out. I went to college classes and was like, I'm done. But I never did calculus. So, but I think that there's an idea here of sort of a Zen approaching a limit, like for me, the spiral circling inward, right? You have to constantly re-examine, and you're going to try to get toward something, but you're never going to reach it. And that's hard. That's a hard place to be. So I think you have to constantly examine, right? You have to constantly sort of come back to what's going on and look at these vibrations, because they're core, right? They're core issues. So you have to kind of get down there into the id, into the murk, into the darkness, and figure out which of those resonances are causing you to go astray. And it's that constant internal reflection. That's why meditation is prescribed by Buddhism, right? It's that constant internal sort of reconnecting with yourself and examining yourself. And it's an ongoing process. It's not easy. Like, to have intellectual curiosity is not easy, because the brain literally wires itself to make things easier. Like, that's why it's harder to learn certain things as you get older, because the infinite pathways, not infinite, but like, the web of pathways when you're young got pruned, right? Your brain became plastic, and now it does things much easier. So, like, math is a good example. When I was a kid, math was very hard because I hadn't figured it out yet. Mm-hmm. And being dyslexic, I don't figure out the same way as they teach it. So I had to struggle for so long. And then I became a teacher after I graduated college, and math was simple. And I could explain it to kids and get them, through it, and give them tools. And it just fell into place. Stuff that was difficult for me as a child is easy for me as an adult. But that same process also locks in some of this sludge, some of this toxic material. And it's that examination, it's that intellectual curiosity and that examination to say, could I be wrong? Why do I feel this way? Why am I so certain of this?
And why are other people so certain of it? And what I have found is that when you can justify your belief because it's popular or common, that removes the obligation to consider what it is you think you know.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a perfect example. That's the glove fitting on easily. That's like this is totally like a popular idea, and I'm totally on board with it. Well, why? What brings you to that position?
Well, it's so strange, because the times we live in, watching people turn themselves inside out in order to remain aligned with what they say they think, even in the face of just abject buffoonery, they will twist themselves in ways to make something make sense that really doesn't have any place in an intelligent, mature adult conversation.
It's intellectual curiosity. It's the unexamined life. It's stacking these resonances, even though if you stop and listen, you can hear the cacophony, right? Mm-hmm. You can hear the things that are out of sequence. You can hear the conflicts between these things.
Well, especially when it's somebody who I know to be intelligent.
But when it's vibrating your nervous system, this is the thing. When it's vibrating your nervous system really only feels good and off. Mm-hmm. In a lot of ways, and consistency, that those things that vibrate your core belief, that's a very strong internal message to your body, and your body likes it. Your body likes having its core beliefs resonated. It likes feeling that frequency, even if the overtones are in chaos. Mm-hmm. That central vibration makes you feel safe.
I think there's also a lot to be said about ego here.
Mhm.
It's hard to admit when you're wrong.
Very.
It's hard to admit when you've been wrong for a very long time. And then having to look in retrospect and admit that for all this time and all these choices and all these statements, you were wrong. And it's difficult to admit something like that. It's difficult to acknowledge that you might have been foolish for a while, but you don't have to remain foolish forever.
There's a thing that we're missing here because you and I don't have it. Right. In our belief systems, we don't have it. But there also is an appeal to a greater than. And that smooths over so much intellectual curiosity.
Faith. Just believe it.
Yeah,
because it's faith. Because it's right.
It short circuits the intellectual curiosity, and it's very comfortable. And that's why you and I don't have it, because we struggle to figure it out on our own without turning to authority, without turning to faith and greater than. And not everybody does that.
It's very strange because the people who do this are the ones who are quickest to call other people sheep and are quickest to call other people, disengaged.
Well, that's just one type of them. And there's people listening that do have, beliefs in the greater than, that are curious and, are like, not all of them are the same, but religion, so not spirituality, but religion, that kind of foundational gathering of the idea of the greater than, and then laying down societal rules based on them. That's, I think, where the danger really kind of comes in, because you have rules and you have laws and you have beliefs that are just because that was said, because it was said, but where was it said, right? Like, as you start to pick it apart, it comes apart at the seams, but it's easy. Humans resonate. This is why we're social creatures. We like to get along. We like to have our cores vibrating together. And so when you have other people that are vibrating with you, it's addictive. It enhances your own vibration, and it feels good because you're part of the in crowd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think we're ready for another card. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, this one has more energy. Okay. Now my deck's getting talkative. Ooh, we're staying down low. This is the Seeker of Waves. So we're still in the court cards, which is interesting because that's a culmination of the journey in a short period of time. Trust the dreams that rise up from your depths. Sorry, it's trust the dreams that rise from your depths. Apparently I tried to edit my card on the fly there.
Read it again.
Trust the dreams that rise from your depths.
So we've been asking the question about what it is you're emanating, and testing it and questioning it and looking at it and examining it. And now this card is saying, trust it. But that's, I think, within this context, an affirmation after examination. Within this reading, I'm not feeling it as, oh, trust yourself. It's like, okay, examine yourself, check yourself. Okay, now trust yourself.
Well, it doesn't say trust every emotion that rises from your depths. It says trust the dreams. And I picked that word very carefully because dreams are hopeful messages. They're lightness, and they are possibility. They aren't negativity. So I have emotions are perhaps the hardest thing for anyone in a Western setting to immerse themselves in, let alone surrender to. Allowing pleasure to overtake you or letting an emotion absolutely carry you away, these things just aren't done. There's nothing bad with being emotional, and the seeker isn't asking you to have a meltdown in a store. The seeker wants you to see what there is to find out there in the big, vast ocean that are your emotions. Guilt is heavy and weighs you down before you know how to swim. And once you do, it just grips you with every kick and paddle. Seek out ways you can be free of the guilt through surrender.
And you're distinguishing between dreams and nightmares. That's why you're saying dreams are positive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There's something extra about them. That's the way I believe. I think that there's something ephemerate and light and hopeful to them.
Well, they definitely come from the deepest parts of you. And if you can trust nothing else, you can trust that they're telling you something about who you are and what you think.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a dream that you don't happen to like or understand, that's okay. It still came from within you. You can examine it and try to figure it out. I don't have great memory of dreams, and I don't remember ever having what is it when you're dreaming and awake at the same time?
Lucid dreaming?
Lucid dreaming. I've never really done that I can think of, unless you want to, I don't know, unless you want to count that as being really tired and feeling inspired, but I don't know that that's what people mean by lucid dreams.
No, it's not.
But I can't ever really remember them well enough to write them down. I have impressions of them when I first wake up, but then they're usually gone pretty quickly. I've tried dream journaling, and I just can't hold on to them long enough to record them to then try to understand them.
Well, that's a very nature, but in this case, I'm not being quite as literal as what you dreamed last night. I probably could have said trust the hopes or the things that rise from your depths, but because it's emotions, I feel like emotions talk to us in dreams. Like dreams aren't logical, literal, right? They are oftentimes very emotionally based, and that's why we get nightmares, right? It's sort of an emotional processing. So, lucid dreaming is interesting. I lucid dream, so sometimes not, right? It's not like every dream, but like last night I lucid dreamed a mansion that apparently was mine, and it was quite an architectural feat. It was very interesting, and I knew I was in a dream. I'm like, I'm going to explore this, and then the dream was like, nope. Like I was trying to get up a hill to like get a better view of the pool, and the dream was like, nope, we're not going to do that. So
now this is a Denny's parking lot. Next.
But what I'm really trying to get us to do here is to immerse ourselves in the water, right? There's a sense of like, I've got a paddle on the surface, and then there's that like, let's just sink down in it. Like you won't drown, not in these waters. You won't drown.
Within the broader context of the reading and, being aware of what you're emanating, the dreams can give you, if you can remember them, they can give you a real sense of context about what it is you're sharing. And they can become a tool for you to understand, I don't know, the motivations that you have maybe.
Mm-hmm. I think you said it just a second ago. It's going to show you very clearly what's going on in your deep resonance that we've been talking about. You're going to see very clear things, and just because you are trusting them doesn't mean you're acting on them, right? So trusting them means they're honest. They're telling you something honest. Maybe they're telling you something that needs to change, but they're being honest with you about what's going on deep down in your emotional state, right? Deep down in your second chakra. You're seeing clearly about yourself and about your views and about your beliefs and all those things that are sort of sub-rational, all those things that vibrate the basic nerves in your body, the spinal core nerves in your body. Like those deep things. Just like when you put your hand on a hot surface, it doesn't go to your brain; it goes to your spinal column. Mm-hmm. Like it short circuits your brain because it's such a deep.
You don't have time to think about whether or not this hurts.
Yeah, just boom,
the damage is being done now.
Yes, like no, you don't think about those things. It doesn't even go to the base part of your brain that controls breathing and heartbeat. It literally goes, nope, short circuit, interrupted. Those are the kind of deep resonances that you can experience from your dreams. So I think within the context of the reading, you're getting deep messages. What are you going to do with those? How are you going to activate those, use those? How are you going to trust their message and their content, but not necessarily allow yourself to be run by them?
And then from there, how does it extend you out into the world?
So let's take a stock of the chakras real quick. So we had second chakra for you, second chakra for me. I had a third chakra. You had crown and throat, right?
And third eye.
And third eye. So we've gotten everything but root then. No, and heart. We haven't had heart.
Correct.
So there's almost an unbalance to this reading. Like we've got a lot going on top. We've got a lot going on in the bottom middle, but we don't have the balancing point of the heart, and we don't have the groundedness of the root.
Not yet.
Not
Just
yet.
one more card.
Just one more card. But it's interesting because I think that alone tells you that this is going to make you feel off kilter. Like you brought it up when we were talking before this card. Like, how do you know? How do you know to examine? How do you know if you're right or wrong? How do you and it's an off-putting feeling because being certain is easy and good and your body likes it. Being uncertain is not easy and your body does not like it. It just doesn't. And we've done studies. We know this. We know that certainty feels better in the body.
I'm not sure if I'm quoting this correctly, but the concept is aligned. In the movie Conclave, there's a moment where the cardinal who's leading the conclave says that the greatest sin is, does he say certitude?
I haven't seen it.
I think it's certitude. But the idea that you already know the answers.
Mm-hmm.
And with the reading not yet touching on the middle or the bottom, going through this process of trying to understand what you're putting out into the world and whether it should be shared and what it says about you on the inside and where it's coming from, all this, these are all very destabilizing conversations to have within yourself. And yet it has to be done, because if you never question what you think or say or how you're vibing, you don't understand when you could be shining brighter, or when you could pull back a little bit and let somebody else shine, or when what you're putting out in the world just isn't helpful. And then how do people respond to you? We're here to be, I think, productive and effective creatures. I don't think that means we have to be quote unquote successful in the way that is defined by, having a CEO position and lots of money, but we're here to leave the world and the people we meet better than we find them. Mm-hmm. And you can't do that if you're not sharing what people are ready to hear. And sometimes it's them not being ready to hear something they need to hear. Sometimes it's you saying something that's simply not going to be received. So either it has to adjust, or it has to change, or you have to reconsider why it's important to you to share whatever it is you're resonating with, and figure out how to be effective.
Well, I think I like what you just said. And I think it kind of goes to I'm picturing a dream catcher now, but like a lot of the problems that we've been talking about are stuff that gets caught up in the web of the mind, the web of, so you have irrational thoughts that are being strung together to maintain, a connection to a resonance that's being felt. But then, I go to The Last of Us, which is a zombie apocalypse show.
I need to see the second season still. The first season was amazing.
But there's, when you go back to basics, like when you just go back to natural resonances, it's just like the stuff that's human, not even the stuff that was you, but like the stuff that is just plain human. You help people out. You might dislike them, but if they're stuck in the mud, you don't leave them there. Like it's just natural human to help out your other, to help out your community, to help out the people around you. And, we see it countless times of just generosity, caring, sacrifice. There was a disabled person's house was on fire. Someone was wheelchair bound and the house was on fire, and the guy just ran in there and grabbed the disabled guy and ran out, and suffered burns. But it's just, that's a very human reaction that was sub-rational. Like there was no rational thought about that. It was just like, oh my God, that house is on fire.
We're such weird creatures. Such weird creatures. So I'm going to run into this house and save somebody I don't know in a wheelchair. And the same species of animal that can do that can also justify genocide.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, we survive best in groups, but only our own groups.
Well,
unless it makes me feel heroic to run into a house that's on fire to yank somebody out who's in a wheelchair, where it makes no sense.
It's a proximity. It's just a proximity thing, and it goes back to social groups of apes.
It just makes no sense. It's like, okay, so my group of apes is great, but that group of apes over there, no. But they're still apes.
Yeah, it's proximity and it's smallness and it's community, and then then the other part comes in, and that's a whole
tribalism is so weird because
thing.
Yes, on the one hand, you need the tribe to survive, but you don't need another tribe coming in here and taking all the food out of the area, so they got to go. But it's like, it's just weird.
Well, I mean, it's deeply ingrained. Resource guarding is deeply ingrained. It's another part of just being human, and that's where.
Although it's weird, I still understand it. I get it. Of course, you don't want another group coming in here and just taking all the deer out of the wood. Okay, I get it. But at the same time, you see one of them over there with a hurt leg, and then you help them. It's like, because there's only one of them and not their whole tribe. It's just weird.
It's the biological basis, right? And it's why we are rational creatures, right? It's why we are intellectual creatures, because we can, right? According to this reading and according to us, we can back up, understand the vibrations that are happening, and choose not to engage one of them, choose to quiet one of them because it's inappropriate. Like, we don't have to resource guard anymore. There's an abundance of resources.
Yes, a superabundance. The Good Samaritan was always one of my favorite parables because you have somebody of a different race and language and religious group, a Samaritan, helping somebody at the side of the road. And it's like, it touches upon what we're discussing right now, the way in which we connect with people who are not like us, who may not vibrate the same way we do, and still seeing them as someone worth connecting to. Mm-hmm. It's just a very, sometimes it just seems quite arbitrary, but here we are.
I want to propose something, and you can you can reject it.
Okay.
I think for once we should pick a card. So what I'm thinking is I want you to roll your deck die, and then I want to pick heart-touching root from that deck and make that our final card.
I understand. So do you want green or red on top?
I want green on top.
Green on top. Okay. Now green on top from deck number 2. So profession. So red over green. I already know what that's going to be. That's going to be number 4. Wait. No. You said green on top.
Green on top. Yeah.
Okay. No. So red on top would be number 4. Green on top. I don't know what that is offhand. Green over red. Oh, number 26 of 49. This is wood, heart, green. I love, as it is intersected by red, earth. I am root. I profess that I love and appreciate those who help me to remain stable. I profess that I love and appreciate those who help me to remain stable.
Yeah, I just felt like we needed to close off this reading because we've been talking about trusting resonances and listening to resonances and quieting and changing and, pruning. And we at the end need to sort of settle ourselves down, right? We've got all these vibrations now going with all these different chakras. We need to close it off, right? We need to complete the bridge, and we need to bring ourselves into alignment. And this is perfect. Can you say the profession one more time?
I profess that I love and appreciate those who help me to remain stable.
It's very pretty. Stability. That's it. I mean, that's kind of what I felt like we were missing.
And the way in which that flows from the relationships and connections you have with other people. That you don't have to create it on your own. You can get it from other people.
Yeah, the connections, the roots, the intermixedness. We were just talking, it's exactly what we were just saying. The intermixedness of simple humanity where you help those around you.
So in my book, number 26 of 49, I profess that I love and appreciate those who help me to remain stable. The haiku for that is, love's rooting embrace delves my soil, fortifying, hedging erosion.
Mm.
Love's rooting embrace delves my soil, fortifying, hedging erosion. How does wood affect earth? Plants penetrate downward, holding dirt intact. A lack of roots allows for erosion. That was literal. I mean it figuratively. A lack of connection undermines your wellness. We need other people.
Mm. So as much as we're being cautious about what's coming in and going out, and as much as we're trying to be whole and contemplative and full of introspection to keep ourselves in alignment, ultimately, we can't do that in isolation.
No, you're still a tree in a forest.
So that connectedness, that belonging, like you're not supposed to be on the fringe, on the outside. Like other people are supposed to agree with you. And if nobody agrees with you, then that's a chance for you to think about what's that all about? Like, how did I discover
they're all wrong? Okay.
Yeah. Well,
but if they're not,
how did you alone discover the truth? That's something to investigate. That's a little bit of a flag to take to heart. But yeah, there are others that are going to resonate with you, and that's good. That's good when you find it authentically and through your introspection. When you find others that resonate, then you will have a community and you will feel lighter and at ease. And they will help you weather things. And hopefully together you can be introspective. I think that's what's missing.
And that's the part that I'm glad you mentioned that, because there are plenty of groups you can be involved with that will make you feel good about being there. But to your point, can you as a group be introspective?
I was just going to say exactly that. Like churches do great at belonging, but there's one person telling you what everything means.
Well, gangs are good at it too.
Mm-hmm.
So, just be aware of where your roots are delving. What kind of soil are you in?
And that shared introspection, that's again why I like Buddhism, because you meditate together and share experiences. Zen is, again, I resonate with that because it's a whole bunch of people just trying to get closer to something and sharing weird things that help each other in that moment.
Do Buddhists go to church per se? Do they come together in groups and like churchify? What do Buddhists do?
There's some of that. There's some of that. Like the Buddha gave sermons that were recorded, and bodhisattvas and others give lessons out to people. There's also just quiet temples where people just come to meditate, and they'll do it as a group.
Like what do Buddhist monks do together in a monastery? What are Buddhist monasteries about? Is it like Catholic monasteries?
I'm not an expert on it, so I'm not going to speak to it like I absolutely know it, but I think there is a similarity. I would think more of like, who are the ones that take the vow of silence all the time? Is it Franciscans?
I don't think so.
Gregorian.
I don't remember, but the vow of silence isn't necessary for all monks. There's poverty, chastity, and obedience, but then silence that's separate.
Well, it's the ones that I'm familiar with, right? The Buddhist things that I'm familiar with are a little bit more akin to groups that sort of get together to do a lot of introspection, and so like the places that do the vow of silence to kind of try to focus them. So there's that's, but I like Tibetan monks are all over the place. So it's hard to say that there's one way of approaching it, but I do know that there's people out there that do get together and do think about things, and there are I think more church-like experiences for some people, and there's more monastic things as well.
We have some Buddhist temples here in Charlotte, but I've never visited any of them. And I didn't understand if they were set up like to have mass or if it's something where people are just introspective in each other's presence or not. So if you're listening and you happen to be a Buddhist or you know the answers to this, please let us know in the comments section because I would be quite curious.
Yeah. How do you experience it? Because I don't practice the same way that someone that's maybe more active. I resonate with it is what I'll say. I don't consider myself to be a Buddhist because I'm not taking on traditions and vestments and other things about it, but I resonate with the idea of it, and it's powerful to me when I'm thinking about hard things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess ultimately you want to have the balance between being your own self while not becoming so isolated that you aren't informed by other people. And yet you don't want to be subsumed into groups of other people so you no longer remember who you are. This is a balance.
We have a members only version of the podcast where you can hear how the reading affected us personally, like how it intersects with our personal life and what it made us think. And so that's a little extra plus that you can get through Patreon. We have a YouTube, Show Your Deck on YouTube, where we put up images of the cards so that you can see the card that we're talking about. And they are pretty. We took a lot of time to make them pretty and glowy and showy. And there's a lot of meaning behind the choices that we've made. So we're very happy for you to see that hard work. So that's Show Your Deck on YouTube. Our books and our decks are available at showyourdeck.com. You can get copies of our books. Mine is available on Amazon, paperback, hardback, and for free on Kindle Unlimited. And Jack's book is available through his store, so you can get a signed copy of the book in the 7x7 format, which it's designed to be viewed in, which is beautiful and wonderful. Jack, where can we find you?
I'm at 49 Haiku. So that's the number 4, the number 9, HAIKU. On the intrawebs, that would be 49haiku.com. And on Instagram, that would be at 49 Haiku.
I am Dean Sage Media. I find me if you dare. We do have an Instagram. It's at your deck, and we'll say goodbye.